Okay, I think, let me make sure there's no echo here. Nope, we're good. Okay, great. Welcome in, everybody. So we are here for applied calculus, which is essentially business calculus, more or less. There might be one or two of you in here from biology or something like that, but it's essentially a business calculus class, and you're here because it satisfies your. There's lots of different things. Some of you are going to be economics, business degrees, all sorts of stuff end up taking this class. So welcome in. We'll be spending the day talking about the course and going over the expectations so that you know how the year is going to play out. I'm still kind of getting settled in a little bit. My dog was having an issue right before class, so I had to take care of my dog and then set up a vet appointment. So I'm normally I would have had stuff up and going a little bit earlier, and I'd be sort of have my head in it a little bit better. So you'll have to forgive me if I have to pause and think about stuff a little bit. And then I was having a technical issue, but I think we're good. So we'll just start with stuff. Couple things. So as you've all figured out, 2 ways to consume these meetings. You can do it on Zoom or you can watch the YouTube stream. Some people like to just be in Zoom. Some people like to just do the YouTube stream. That's fine, however you want to consume it. Some people have windows open for both or tabs, however you want to do it. If you're going to do that, mute one of them because the audio is timed a little bit differently, and so you'll get a weird echo. So if you're watching both, and you don't need to watch both, but some people do, mute one of them. Some people like to listen in Zoom and watch the YouTube stream. It just depends. The YouTube stream's going to have better visuals. So when I'm showing you stuff, like if you're in Zoom right now, you just see the green screen behind me, the green wall. If you're on the YouTube stream, you'll actually see stuff behind me that I'll be trying to show you throughout the semester. Nice thing about the YouTube stream, it automatically closes captions within an hour or two of the stream. So anyone who likes to use or needs to use the closed captioning, that happens automatically. And then also the videos get archived for the semester on the YouTube channel. So if you need to go back later and watch something or check something or whatever, you can go back and find that video that you want to rewatch, or if you were sick and you missed class, you can go watch that video. Okay, that's kind of why I have it set up where the YouTube stream is sort of organized well, because it automatically gets saved and you can watch it later. And there will be a playlist created specifically for this class. So if you go onto the YouTube channel at a later date, you don't have to like sort through all my 5 classes of videos. You can just go to the playlist for this class, and then that'll just be the videos that are for you, right? I will say in Zoom, I do appreciate that some people have their cameras on. It's really hard as a professor to just speak to a bunch of black rectangles on a screen, right? As professors, we're pretty good at talking, but it's kind of hard to talk when there's no visual feedback or anything. So it is nice if people turn their cameras on. I'm not going to mandate that anyone has to turn their camera on. It's just if you're comfortable with having your camera on, but it does make it a little easier to teach, because then I can see those nonverbal cues. If I see a bunch of confused faces, I know I should spend more time explaining what I'm talking about, or stuff like that. As far as Zoom etiquette, in general, you want to be muted unless you have something to say. And it's the same thing for us as professors. When we're all in a meeting of professors, that's the default too. We stay muted unless we have something to say, because otherwise we get all this noise of, someone who lives with you walks in the room and starts talking to you because they forget you're on Zoom, dogs barking, doors opening and closing, and it just gets to be kind of a mess. So it's the default should be that you're on mute, but by all means, if you need to ask me a question or communicate with me, feel free to unmute yourself. Also, whatever stream you're in, whether it's the YouTube stream or Zoom, feel free to throw something appropriate into the chat. So if you have a question, throw it into chat, and I'll look at it, and then then I can kind of pause and go, oh, that's a good question, but I want to finish what I'm saying. And then I can address the question. That works well. Just obviously, if you're putting stuff in chat, make sure it's class appropriate stuff, right? But that works well, and I'll try to answer the chat, and then sometimes it's helpful to, if you need to unmute yourself and ask me a question directly, I'll stop, and then you can ask your question and stuff like that. Okay, so we'll take roll in a minute. I want to give people a few more minutes to kind of file in. Largely today we'll just be going over the course so that you know exactly what you need to do to be successful in this course. It's kind of a weird scenario. We're starting off the semester strange again. This class is technically supposed to be, this is technically a hybrid class, but what that means is we're supposed to meet on campus for 2 hours a week, and then the rest of it is online. We don't have like another Zoom meeting. It's just like half the class is what they call asynchronous, where you're watching videos and stuff like that, and then half of it will meet in class, which I think can be really helpful. It's really helpful for testing, for reviews, to be in the classroom, stuff like that. And I'll go into test reviews and test retakes and all that kind of stuff that we're going to need to discuss in order to know how the semester is going to go. So yeah, well, I'm going to wait a few more minutes on attendance. So let's see. So we've got, where are we? Math V46, Applied Calculus. So you've got your Canvas course right up at the top, class meetings and syllabus. So that's kind of the most important information. How do you attend these classes for now until we go back? And lots of information in the syllabus that's important to you. That's largely what we'll be going over today. The good news is chapter 1 of the course, there's 6 chapters. Chapter 1, you should have seen everything before. It's all prerequisite material. So graphing lines and functions and polynomials and rational functions and exponentials and logs. And the good news is, I know logs is scary for people. We only do exponentials and logs like in kind of a shallow way. It's not even as hard as what you did in your college algebra or pre-calculus class. It'll be better than that. So the good news is most of the review for this calculus course, that chapter 1 is stuff you've seen before. So even though we're going to be a little light on class lecture time for chapter 1, it's all review. So you should be able to work through it and do well with that. What I will say is please take that chapter 1 seriously, right? It's easy to go, well, I learned this before, but if you really ask yourself, like, do you really remember all of it, right? You'll pick it up quicker because you've learned it before, but if you haven't looked at it for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 2 years, it's easy to forget a lot of it. And chapter 1 is presented in a way where you're using the mathematics from your pre-calculus or algebra class, but it's in kind of the businessy type setting that most of this class is presented in, right? So you've done functions before, but you may not have done them in the setting of profit, revenue, and cost. So it's really good to go through and kind of see those settings because, for instance, profit, revenue, and cost, this seems like pretty straightforward concepts, right? I still see students struggling with those concepts of a revenue function, cost function, profit function late in the semester, and that's not good, right? Most students do perfectly well with it. It's just a few students I still see struggling with it at the end, but much of this course is going to be taught from that perspective, so you want to make sure you understand the algebra so that you can do that, right? The truth is, and I've heard other teachers have the same opinion, more people fail calculus because they can't do algebra than that they can't do calculus. A lot of the calculus, believe it or not, like some of it's pretty complicated, but some of it is really just a matter of memorizing a formula and applying it to a problem. But the hard part comes in that before you can apply that formula to a problem, you might have 5, 6, 8, 10 steps of algebra to do first before you can use the calculus formula. And if you can't do the algebra, then you just can't get through the problem. So that's why I say I've seen more students fail calculus because they can't do algebra than the ones that I've seen that fail calculus because they can't do the calculus part. So the algebra is very important. Please make sure you take that seriously, brush up on your algebra, make sure you're solid with it, and then we can get to the stuff that's, that is complicated, the calculus and everything. So that's kind of chapter 1, which I'll get to here in a little bit. But first we want to talk about let's see, we saw class meetings. Let's get to the syllabus. So 2 things. I'm going to go over the syllabus, but we also want to go over this COVID safety practices because hopefully in the next couple of weeks that will be relevant to us. Since this is a class that is supposed to meet on ground in a classroom, we will have to know those COVID practices. So this is a school policy that was put out, and we were told we have to put it with our syllabus so that all students understand the COVID policies before you return to campus, right? And I don't want you to be delayed getting to campus when we do open up. Obviously, you're here in the meeting now, so you know we're not meeting in person. You all got an email notifying you that we are officially starting the first 2 weeks of the semester online. That doesn't mean we're going to be back on ground in week 3. That's up in the air. There's already discussion going on at the school and with the board about, is 2 weeks enough, right? Is it going to get extended further than 2 weeks? Is it going to go into mid-February? Potentially. We don't know yet, right? The board of trustees will let us, they make that decision and they'll let us know, right? So, the hint that they kind of give us is we're probably going to follow suit with whatever the UCs and CSUs do. So if you hear that the UCs have extended into mid-February, it's not for sure, but they kind of think we'll probably follow suit with whatever the UCs and CSUs are doing. We're likely to just say, me too, and do the same thing that they're doing. So if you hear changes happening at those colleges, pay attention, and I'll update us in class, but you can kind of inform yourself as well as to what Ventura College is going to do. And you'll get an email just like you did, if anything changes about that. You'll probably get an email either way saying, okay, we're back on ground now, or nope, we're online an extra 2 weeks again, right? However that's going to work. So, right. So I'll keep you informed of that, but kind of keep your ears open so that you'll be notified too. So we've got our safety protocols are posted in there, and you can you can read those over. When we do go on ground, these are the safety protocols that are enforced, right? Most people are pretty good with the COVID protocols. Some people get upset by them. Please be aware, if you don't like these protocols, the professors, I have no control over what the safety protocols are. I have to follow these protocols. It's not a choice that I have as a professor. I agree with the protocols, and I want to keep our class safe. But the COVID stuff is very controversial. So if you have a problem with the COVID protocols, just understand I can't do anything about it, and employees on the campus can't do anything about it. So telling us about your research that you've done and your beliefs about mandates aren't going to do any good because we can't change anything, right? If you want to be heard and you want to speak out about you not liking the protocols, you need to go to the Board of Trustees meeting and speak to them. That's who makes the decision for the college. So please don't unload on any school employees, including me, because I can't change it even if I wanted to, which I don't, but I can't change it anyways, okay? So we just want to be productive about that. So many of you may not have been on campus in a long time or ever. When we go back, there's a few protocols we're going to have to maintain. One is you have to be screened daily. So that means that in the app, when you get to school, you go into the VCCD app on your phone, and there's a little button you push, and it's, for the screening, and it says, are you exhibiting symptoms? No, I'm not exhibiting symptoms. And then it says, have you been exposed to people who are known to have COVID? Nope, haven't been around anyone with COVID. You go through the process, and it's going to give you a little screen that says you're okay. You have to go to one of the places on campus, and you have to show somebody that they have them staffed. You show someone your phone that has that pass for you, and they're going to give you a little paper bracelet. Like if you go to you go to an event or something and they put those little bracelets on you, it's going to be like that. They give you a different color every day so that way we can tell, oh, that bracelet you're wearing is for today. If you show up to class without the bracelet, I have to tell you to leave and go get the bracelet, or just leave, or whatever, right? All of us, I have to have one. I can't go to class without one. You all have to have the right one. So you have to get that done. There currently is a vaccine mandate on campus. Um, I know most of you are vaccinated, but that doesn't mean that you've shown the school that you're vaccinated. So inside that same My VCCCD app, there's a section in there where you can upload your vaccine card. They'll verify that your card is legitimate, and then they'll put you in the they put a little like tag on your name that says, okay, you're vaccinated, you're clear to come to campus. If you try to come to campus without that vaccine approval, you're not going to get given a bracelet. Okay? So what I recommend, if you have not uploaded if you're vaccinated and you haven't uploaded that to the school yet, do it now, because I suspect the day before we go back, the school is going to get flooded with people uploading those vaccine cards, and they may not be able to get through everything in a day. So probably want to take care of that now, right? That's kind of a theme you're going to hear me hit on, is like procrastination. If you've been vaccinated, I would get that card uploaded now, and they'll probably get it done in a couple hours. Whereas if you wait till 10,000 students are trying to come back on campus, it may take them a while to get through all of those submissions. If you are not vaccinated, you need to either get vaccinated or drop the course, because if you are not vaccinated, you can't be on campus. If you can't be on campus, you can't take this class, right? Assuming we go back sometime between now and mid-February, you won't be able to take the course then. Once we're back in the class, we won't also have Zoom meetings at the same time. Is there a question?
I have a question.
Sure.
Yes. So you know how you have to get the vaccinations 2 weeks apart?
Right.
So if it would be our first vaccination, and if we go back after the third week, how would that work?
Oh, like if you couldn't if you had to skip a week, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, so you would just, you would obviously miss some material from that week you missed, but if you said that you're trying to get the second vaccine, depending on the details, I would try to not drop you from the course if you were actively trying to get that taken care of.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so I would move forward with that. Don't procrastinate. If you're not vaccinated but you're willing to be vaccinated, I would move forward with that quickly. Just Google Ventura COVID or Ventura vaccinations. There's good county websites with all sorts of information, all sorts of stuff going on. I've just been going through it because my son needs his booster, so I've been like making appointments and stuff to get all that done. It's free. No one's going to charge you anything. Just go get that done. Okay, so you have to do that. You have to wear a mask anytime you're indoors on campus. So if you're inside, you got to have a mask on. If not, you'll be asked to leave, right? And you have to be wearing it correctly. You can't just have it on your chin where it's warming your chin. You got to wear it correctly, which is a pain, right? I have to lecture for 2 hours. Imagine lecturing with these masks on. It's unpleasant, but we all have to do this so we can protect each other and not infect each other. I am likely to have windows open because ventilation is supposed to be very helpful for keeping the virus load in the classroom down if you're getting fresh air in there. So if it's still January, February, you might want to bring like a hoodie or a sweatshirt or something like that so you don't get too cold. But we will be ensuring that there's good ventilation in the classroom, again, looking out for your safety. There's little QR codes outside of the rooms on campus. You're supposed to scan that before you go in. This helps with contact tracing. So if someone in our class turns out they had COVID and maybe they were asymptomatic and they didn't realize till the next day they had COVID, then the school can contact everyone who was in that room and say, hey, just a heads up, you were exposed or you were near someone who had an exposure or something like that. And so we'll have to be doing that as well. And then basically, you can read the whole document, but basically if you're not following the rules, I have to have you leave the classroom. And if there's difficulty, I'm supposed to cancel class. So until we can get that student dealt with, right? So please just be ready for that and just kind of know if you have a big problem with vaccines or whatever. Again, I can't do anything about it. I'm not the person that you want to have an argument with about it. I'm just trying to run a classroom and keep everybody safe and follow school policy. Okay. Is there any questions? Yeah. So, um, if someone in our class had COVID, what would likely happen is that person would not be allowed to come on campus for a set period of time, and then they would notify everyone else and just say, "Hey, you've been exposed. Do you? It's up to you if you want to go get tested." But we probably would still have classes. We would still continue to do that. The only thing, and I don't think we'll ever get to this point. I hope we don't. The only time I'd have to cancel a class is if someone's kind of having their protest in class. Someone gets worked up about mask mandates or that kind of stuff. Then then I have to cancel class and we'll just pick up the next week where we were. But hopefully that's not going to happen. And if someone in our class gets reported as having COVID, we shouldn't have to cancel class over that. And you'll all be notified. Yeah. Other questions? No? Okay. Oh, yeah.
I had one about I don't know how like if you know much about the app or not or anything, but I uploaded my vaccine card like months ago, but I never really got any feedback. Like it was just processing forever, and now I'm looking at it, and it's like I never sent one in. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
So that's a great question. That's an excellent question. Us professors were confused by that too whenever it was, I don't know, 6 months ago or something when I submitted my vaccine card. I had the exact same scenario. I submitted it, never heard anything back. The way you know is when you go on the app and you fill out the daily questionnaire that says, "Do you have symptoms?" No. "Have you been exposed to people?" No. When it gives you your little pass, if it's blue, that means the school recognizes that you're vaccinated. I think if you're not, it's orange or something like that. So you can tell by the color of the pass if the school is recognized. I agree. It would be nice to get an email that says, "Okay, you're good. We see you're vaccinated," because they just kind of leave you hanging. Um,
Yeah, thank you for
right,
that.
right. And then,
I
oh,
remember like for my art class last semester when I went on, it said vaccinated underneath the daily pass, but I wasn't sure, you know.
okay, cool, cool. And then, let's see. Was I gonna say something else? And then, yeah, that's probably it for now. We'll go over these when we're back in the classroom just to remind everyone, but just so you can kind of mentally get prepared. Got to be masked, got to be vaccinated, all that kind of stuff. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the actual class. So, and just a heads up, because we're not gonna go exactly with the time. Like if we look on the roll sheet or the roster, it says this class meets from 10 to 11:50. The school has put out a policy where they want us to really try to not have our Zoom meetings go longer than 90 minutes. So even though the class officially ends at 11:50, administration, according to their rule, wants me to end at 11:30. Okay, so when we're back in the classroom, we will be going till 11:50. We'll go the whole time, but I'm following what the administration says, and we're shortening the Zoom meetings a little bit. I might go a few minutes over 90 minutes, depending on where we're at, but just so you know, we're not like cheating and not having as much time or anything. This is what Ventura College wants us to do. Okay, so actually now would be a good time. I'm gonna try to take roll here. So I'm gonna see how many I can get just from the participants in the room. So, and I'm gonna try to not use last name since this is going on YouTube. I'll try to just use the first letter of your last name. So like me, I'd say Chris F, right? Instead of saying my full name. That way, just to help protect privacy, since this will be a public video on YouTube. Those of you who have your full name on Zoom, I should be able to pick it up. If you have not a full name on there, like if it says Alex's iPhone or it says Dominic or whatever, if you could just throw your name into chat, your full name into chat. So that's only like maybe 2 people. I'm not going to be able to figure out. If you could just put your name in chat, then I can match it up, right? So let's see. We've got Naomi Gonzalez. Okay, Rebecca Schindler. Paul Anders. Stella Vizo. Tori Franco. Tori, are you Victoria?
Yes, that's me.
Okay. Oops. Oops. Okay, I think we got everyone who was in. Let's see. So that's Dominic. Okay. Okay. And then if there's anyone that's just on the YouTube stream, if you could just in the chat there throw your first name and just the first letter of your last name. You don't have to put your last name if you don't want, but just first name, first letter of your last name. If you're only in the YouTube stream. If you're in Zoom, I should have already got you. And you should be good. Otherwise, let's see. Jocelyn B. If you're here, let me know in chat. Enrique C. Ethan H. Oh, okay. So we got Johnny P. Okay, Johnny P. I got you. See, Ethan H. Ashley L. Oh, there we go. Ashley L. Great. Charlize M. Monica M. Braden M. Hannah P. And Aaliyah R. If any of those people are around, let me know. Oh, okay. Somehow I missed that. Okay, Jocelyn, somehow I missed you on the roll there. Thanks. Oh, and then Ethan H. Okay. Hopefully got everybody then. So the only people I'm missing, Enrique C., Charlize M., Monica M., Braden M., Hannah P., and Aaliyah R. Oh, there's Braden M. Monica M. Okay. Is that everybody? Okay, 2 reasons the roll is really important right now. So one is that what we've seen is a decline in attendance over the last 2 years. Each semester, attendance is getting a little bit worse and worse. Over the course of a semester, it tends to drop off. We kind of started off in general trying to be flexible with students. Some people are like, oh, I work during class. Can I just watch the videos later? What we're seeing is that's very unsuccessful for students. So It's really important to actually be here in class during the actual meetings. You can ask questions, you can hear, and even if you're someone who's like, well, I don't ask a lot of questions, there's a lot of research that's been done that shows if you're in a meeting that's happening live, even if you don't say anything, versus watching it later, you do better if you're in the meeting live, right? They've literally taken where they take groups, they have people in a meeting where it's being recorded, and then they show people that same recording later. The people who watch it later don't do well when they take a quiz about what was covered in class. So it's hard to explain, but there appears to be something about the passivity of the watcher's brain when they're in a live meeting versus watching it at a later date, and you're kind of more passive. It's more like watching a TV show. People aren't as engaged and they don't learn the material as well. So I'm being stricter about taking attendance in class because it's going to lead to a higher pass rate in this class, and that's part of my job, is to make sure I'm creating a class where the most number of students can succeed, right? So also, especially there's a date coming up with it, we call it census, where the state of California, so I know you've all paid tuition, but the truth is taxpayer dollars pay for most of your tuition, right? If you just calculate like 20 people in this class times the tuition for this class, it doesn't even pay for the professor, right? Let alone the whole school and electricity and administration and all that kind of stuff. Most of that money comes from the state after it was collected in taxes. And the state doesn't want to pay for people who aren't attending class or who aren't doing homework. So a part of my contract, when the census date rolls around in a few weeks, I have to drop people with too many absences. I have to drop people who aren't really participating and doing homework and stuff like that. The school takes that very seriously. It's one of the things that I have to be able to defend both students that I did drop. I have to be able to say, no, I have records. This person wasn't attending. I also have to defend why I didn't drop people. Right? I could have to talk to the dean and they say, this student didn't show up to class. Why didn't you drop them? Right? So I think sometimes students think that's just up to the professor. This is a contract thing. So I have to drop people who are not really looking like they're going to be successful in the course by the end of the month. Okay. So now you may have legitimate absences, right? You may get COVID or something, or you have a family emergency or something like that. In that case, email me and let me know. Say, I am serious about this class. I had something come up, which was, I couldn't get out of it, or I had COVID, I was sick, or I was in the hospital or whatever. That's fine as long as I know. But if I have absences I don't know anything about, and you're not doing homework assignments, then I have to drop you. That's part of my requirement. Okay. So, and then if anyone comes in late to the meeting, I'll say this again later, but if anyone comes in late, make sure I know so that you're not marked absent on my role here, so you don't get dropped when you just were late or something like that, okay? All right, so you are here for Math V46 Applied Calculus in spring 2022. Who am I? Dr. Frederick. So I grew up in Northern California. I did my graduate work in Colorado, got my PhD in mathematics, ended up teaching full-time for 4 years in Washington State, got back to California. This is year 9 at Ventura College. I've taught this class a bunch of times. In fact, I'm the course lead for this class, which means all the paperwork that we have to file with the state for our courses, that all goes through me. So I'm very comfortable with this class. I've taught it a ridiculous number of times. You can be comfortable with that. I know what's going on in the course. My office is Science 237. I won't be there for the next few weeks, but presumably we will be going back on campus at some point, but either 2 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now or 6 weeks from now, whatever. We'll be back on campus. And my office hours will then be in my office. Right now, my office hours are going to be on Zoom to the same link that you used to come to class. You'll come ask me questions in office hours, okay? But when we're on campus, Sci 237, so if you're in the west parking lot, that's the one where they have the market. Is it called the market? The thing they have on the weekends that's, you can go buy food and stuff from vendors and stuff. That parking lot, in the science building, the part of the science building that's really close to that parking lot, that's where my office is. So like if you're there, where like if you've been to the market on the weekends, they have like the food trucks and stuff right there. You're like 50 feet from my office. The science building is really weird. It's actually scheduled in the next decade. They're planning to tear it down and rebuild it. It's a terrible building. People get lost in that building and confused. They don't know what floor they're on. It's a really strange building. So sometimes I have students can't find my office. So just realize I'm on the end of the building that's kind of near where the food trucks are at the market in that parking lot. It's close to the parking lot. Okay. Email. So here's my email. Just if you're going to email me, I would recommend just like copy paste from the syllabus. I regularly get students who are like, oh, I emailed you and you never got back to me. And then we look and they either left out the second E in my name, or people like to add an S or an SON to my name. I'm not sure where they get Fredrickson from, but my name is Frederick. So obviously I don't get your emails then if you're sending them to a different address. So just copy paste right out of here, and then you can send them to me directly. However, I do prefer that you message me in Canvas. Right? The reason for this is if you message me in Canvas, it automatically tells me what class you're in. Students very often will email me not enough information for me to know how to help you, right? They'll just say like, well, when is the next assignment due? And then I have to spend 5 minutes looking through my roles to figure out what class you're in. And that might not sound like a big deal, but if I have 20 students and I have to spend 5 minutes figuring out which class each of them are in, that's hours I'm not spending helping students, right? So please, if you send me a message through Canvas, just give me lots of information. Like, don't be afraid to give me too much information, because then I can probably help you. But if I don't have enough information, then I don't know what you need. So, you say, look, I'm working on homework 2.3. If you're in Canvas, it tells me what class you're in. I'm working on homework 2.3. I'm really stuck on number 9. I keep thinking the answer is 5, but it's telling me 7. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Then I can look at that exact problem and go, oh, I bet I know what you're doing wrong here. And then I can try to help you with that. Okay, but I need that information in order to help you. If you just say, I don't get derivatives, well, half of calculus is derivatives. I don't really know what you need if your question is that broad. So go ahead, give me details. Let me know, where it is that you're having trouble, and I can try to help you with that, okay? Office hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 9 to 10. So actually the hour before this class is an office hour. So if that's convenient for you, you can stop by and show up 15 minutes early and ask a question. If you show up like 2 minutes early, I probably can't help you because I'm probably setting up the stream and opening Zoom and getting everything ready to go. But if you show up 10 minutes early, I can probably answer a quick question. If you show up 15 minutes early, I can probably spend 10 minutes with you helping you out. So feel free to show up early and get help with office hours. I also on Monday and Tuesday have an office hour from 12 to 1. So if that works better for you, come to office hours and ask questions. Some students don't understand what office hours are. They're basically a time where I'm here available for you to make contact with me. So you might have a problem on the homework. You might have a problem with the upcoming exam. You might have a whole concept you don't understand, right? You come to office hours, get help. Sometimes students are considering dropping and they come to me. I recommend if you're going to drop the class, just come talk to me first. Because I sometimes have students who are like, oh, I'm considering dropping, and we look and they have like a C. Like, don't drop. If you have a C, you might pass the class, right? So feel free to come talk to me about that. If you don't understand something about the way these math courses work at VC, come talk to me, right? We're seeing more and more in these online classes, students not making contact with and getting the help that they need, which kind of makes sense. You're all isolated. Like if we were in a classroom, you all would be chatting with each other before class started, and you'd get to know each other, and you'd be comfortable asking each other like, hey, I couldn't get the graph to work on the homework. Do you know what to do? And they'd go, oh yeah, you got to push this one button first, and then you click the 2 points, and then it works. But like, it's kind of hard for you all to do that now because you're not getting that socialization. You're not getting comfortable with each other because you're all isolated. So it's really important. Sometimes in this class especially, people want to form study groups. If anyone is interested in that, I can help you form, I'll put up a discussion board if there's a request for that, where you can all form a study group and you can meet on Zoom on your own and work together, right? If you request that, I'll put that up and you can form those groups. Otherwise, there's online tutoring good question. So there's online tutoring from the Tutor Center, which I believe right now is all Zoom. I don't know what they are changing all the time. So once we go back to on ground, I don't know what their policy is going to be. It's changed many, many times in the last 2 years. But right now, you can, if you go to the Ventura College webpage and look up tutoring, it'll give you a link to zoom in to the Tutoring Center and talk with them. So they can help you with that. What I will say is about the Tutoring Center, and I don't want to discourage anyone from using it, because by all means you should, but you might have to be patient, because most people that take this course don't become tutors. Most people that are in the Tutor Center have taken engineering calculus, which means they know like the calculus itself really, really well. Because in the engineering calc, they do really hard problems, harder than what we do in here. But they may not be familiar with some of the business concepts that we're going to cover in this class. So elasticity, they may not have covered in their class. Profit, revenue, cost, functions, those kinds of things they might not have done in their calculus, but they can help you. Like, here's how you do a limit. Like many of you are going to be very confused about limits when we talk about those. They can absolutely help you with your limit homework. They can help you take derivatives. They can help you do all that kind of stuff. But the business application, you have to like let them read a little bit, where they read the definition and go, okay, I think I know how to do this problem. So, but by all means, if you need help, the Tutoring Center is a great place to go. I would say 9 out of 10 topics, they're totally going to be able to help you. But there's maybe 1 out of 10 topics where the tutor might get a little confused, because they might not know what elasticity of demand is or something like that. The businessy part of things. And then of course there's my office hours that you can come to and get help. I do request, if you come to office hours, again, have information, and it's especially helpful if you've worked on it, right? If you just come in and say, I don't understand the power rule or something. Like, I can go over it, but we're probably going to spend 20, 30 minutes on the power rule in class. I can't just summarize it in like a minute. But if you come in and you're like, I've been doing this homework problem and I keep putting in this and it says I'm wrong, in that case, I can see what you've done, and then I can go, oh, I see what you're doing wrong. Let's take a look at it, and then I can help you with it. So it's much more effective for me to help you if you bring something that you've done, and then I can see what you're doing wrong. Because if you just say, I don't understand how to take the quotient rule, I don't really know what you don't understand then. You see what I'm saying? If you've done some problems, then I can see what you're doing wrong. It just makes it a little more efficient for me to help you. Okay? So don't be afraid to use office hours. I understand, since we're not in a classroom and you don't see me in person, people can be kind of intimidated or not totally comfortable with coming to office hours. Just come to office hours. Like, math classes are hard. People find them challenging. It's extra challenging when we're remote, right? Our pass rates are not as good when we're remote because it's harder for students. So get the help that you need, because you don't want to take this class again, and the school doesn't want you to take it again. I don't want you to take it again. We want you to be successful your first time through. So please come get the help that you need. You're not bothering me. You're not like, that's what office hours are for, is for you to come get help. Okay, so please make use of that. The final exam. So as professors, we're kind of in a weird spot as far as the syllabus. We're required to put the date and time of the final exam in the syllabus, and our syllabus are due at the beginning of the semester. Well, the school has changed to a system where they don't release the final exam schedule until the middle of the semester. So I'm supposed to put the time and date in here now that they're not going to tell us for 2 more months. So it's kind of a weird scenario. So it's impossible, right? So I have a link here to where the final exam schedule will be posted when they post it, and then you can go look that up. We'll talk about it in class, but it's right here if you want to find it. Speaking of which, you also get the academic calendar there, which I just want to show you. If you're on the main Ventura College webpage, oh, did I talk about? Yeah. So if you're just in Zoom, you're not going to be able to see all these visuals, but if you're on the YouTube stream, you will. If you're on the main Ventura College webpage, see how up at the top it says academic calendar? Really good idea that you print out two things from there. So I click academic calendar, and we go down, and you can see they still have last semester's final exam schedule. At some point, that will become, it'll say spring 2022 final exam schedule, and then we can look up when the final exam is. Okay, but we can't, this won't do us any good because that's past. But see down here, this 2021, 2022 instructional calendar. I always recommend students just print that off. Really good to have. I see a lot of students, they'll have the binder where it's got like a sleeve on front and you can slip a piece of paper in there. This is a great thing to stick in there because then you'll know things like, hey, next Monday's a holiday, right? The 17th, school holiday. Don't come to school. Every single time we have a holiday, I'll have at least one student come to me the next time we meet and say, oh man, I came to school on Monday and no one was here and all the rooms were locked. I didn't know it was a holiday. Well, that's kind of a bummer that you could have slept in or picked up a shift at work or gone to the beach. Instead, you're walking around an empty campus, right? So it's really helpful knowing when these holidays occur so that you can make the most of that holiday and do what you need to do. And then you'll know when this spring break is. And believe me, I know what it's like not having any money and working your way through school as a student. Many of you work jobs and you might go, I know what it was like. You get a week off. You're like, okay, I need to make some money so I can schedule some extra shifts, or I need to get caught up on my homework, or whatever it is that you need to do. You can plan ahead because you know when. Oops, it's not on the screen here. Let's see. You can see exactly when spring break is here last week of March, right? And you can make and here's a weird one on a Tuesday that is going to catch people off guard because it's not a normal holiday. See this red one? That's something where we as professors are supposed to go to certain meetings, but there's no classes, right? So you can just be aware of all of that and plan accordingly. Do realize this purple week at the end, that's finals week. So, I sometimes get students that they think the school ends on the 11th and they're like, well, I booked my Disney cruise. I'm not going to be here for the final. We can't reschedule for Disney cruises and stuff. We can only do it for legitimate reasons. So you have to be here during this finals week. Once we find out when that final exam is, then you can make sure you book your cruise or vacation after that final exam date. I'll talk more about finals as the semester goes along, but they're really strict about finals because we have to make sure that we're not playing favorites or giving certain people exemptions and not giving them to other people. We have to be, professional about things. So I think the two times that I've had students get exemptions for the final exam, I think both of them were women who were giving birth basically during the final, right? So that's pretty understandable. If you have a serious medical condition, surgery, something like that, then yeah, I can't expect you to be taking a test when you're giving birth, right? So in that case, we make an exemption and then we work it out. But just realize if it's small stuff like your car didn't start or you forgot and you booked an airline ticket at the wrong time or something like that, we can't make exemptions for that kind of stuff. So just do be aware when the semester ends and then plan accordingly to that. And once I see that the final exam schedule has been posted, I'll make you aware of that, and then you'll know, because it could be, I don't know, we could be done on the 12th or we could be done on the 18th. We don't really know till that final exam schedule comes out. It is highly likely, I'm just making a guess here, so don't hold me to this, but probably since our class meets on Tuesday, I'm guessing that our final will be on this Tuesday the 17th. So that's not a hard date. That's like a soft guess that I'm making right here. But that would be my best guess, is that our final will be on the 17th of May. So that's almost all of finals week, okay? But good idea for you to have this calendar, and then you can make informed decisions based on that. Okay, where's my syllabus? Here we go. Right. Oh, calculators. I thought I took this out of the syllabus, but I guess I didn't. TI-84 calculator can be helpful. If you happen to have one or you know someone that you can borrow one from, very, very helpful. We used to loan these out to people. We had hundreds of them in the division office, and we would loan them out for free to students for the semester. We're not doing that anymore for a number of reasons, part of it being concerns about cleanliness and spreading viruses and stuff like that. So you do not have to go buy a TI-84, but if you can get your hands on one either cheap or free, can be very helpful. Okay, but you don't. It's not required, right? Because they're like $100 or something, so it's not trivial to get your hands on one. But sometimes you'll know, like, oh yeah, my brother's an engineer and he'll let me borrow the calculator for a semester or something, or my sister's a chemist or whatever, and if you can borrow that calculator, do that, but you don't have to go buy one. Most of the stuff on this first page of the syllabus isn't going to make sense to you, because if it did, then that means you already know the class, right? This is just the stuff we go over in the course. This is helpful, like, let's say you transfer to Channel Islands or UCSB or something. They know who Ventura College is, and they're likely to know exactly what our courses are, and they won't need to see anything in order to give you your transfer credit. But if you go to a school, say in rural Minnesota, they don't know what we teach in applied calculus. So if you have this syllabus, you can show them, well, here's what we cover, and they go, oh, that's basically what we cover. Okay, we'll give you credit for the course. Sometimes a school makes you repeat a course that you take at community college. I went to community college. I actually went for 4 years because I couldn't pick a major. I kept changing my major, and then I'd have to take a whole new set of classes. When I transferred to Sacramento State, when I got there, they said, oh, we don't recognize this history class. You're going to have to take it again. And I was like, great. I get to take the same class a second time. I did luck out. I checked with them a year later, and they said, oh, we take it now. You're good. So it's just sometimes like a school is going to make you retake a class. That just kind of happens. The state of California is trying to formalize all the classes across the whole state. So if you go anywhere in state, they'll know exactly what the class is, but that's not in effect yet. So anyways, just know you might want to hold on to the syllabus if you're planning to transfer somewhere not nearby. You might want to hold on to this so they don't try to make you take the class again. Grades. So 50% homework, 50% exams. So there will be, well, I can talk about exams now. Let's see. So 50% homework, 50% exams. It's your typical 90, 80, 70, 60 for A, B, C, D grades. But notice here, and to earn a grade of C or above, you have to have at least 70% on the homework. So that's a requirement. In order to get a passing grade in this class, you have to do at least 70% of the homework. That's not that bad, because the problems when you get them when you get them wrong, they let you try again on like a different version of the problem. So it's not like if you get it wrong, you're sunk. Forget about it. You just have to keep working on it. So if you put in the effort, most people's homework grades are like in the 90s. I see some students get 100% because they really want to get every single problem right. But I see a lot of grades 94, 93, 92. That's good. That's where you want your homework grade to be. So why do I have this in here that you have to do 70%? As the semester goes along, and I get it, we all get very tired as the semester goes along. Most of you have jobs. Many of you have kids. Many of you have parents that need attention. We get tired, right? Everyone gets tired, and it's easy to start cutting corners. And math homework is one place where students try to cut corners, and they go, well, I'll skip some homework assignments and I'll just do extra good on the test. But as someone who's had thousands of students, I can tell you, if you skip the homework, you will not do well on the test, right? You have to do the homework to do well on the exam. I don't give weird problems on exams. I'm not looking to surprise you or trick you on tests. The problems that you see on the test will very closely resemble either homework problems or things we've done in class. You're not going to see a problem that you're like, what? I don't know what this is about. Like, you'll be able to go back and go, oh, that's kind of like that one on the homework. I'm not saying it'll be identical, but I'm not looking to like get real creative or throw you a curveball on exams. So if you're doing the homework and you understand it, that's a great start for the exams that you have to do. Okay, so just make sure you're doing that. Again, I have to make decisions that lead to the most people successfully completing the course. So that's one of them. So make sure you're doing that at least 70%. Like I say, shoot for 90s, and then you'll be doing much better. There will, let's see, actually we're an on-ground course, so I don't have to do that, assuming we go back to being on ground at some point. So let me remember what I have to say. It's different for all my classes, so I have to remember exactly how we're doing it. Most of your homework then will be done in my math lab. So you'll want to buy a license for that. I recommend just buying it directly through the website, like skip the bookstore entirely. The bookstore is so problematic. In fact, one of my classes, they completely messed up the book order, and I have students who were told to buy 2 versions of the same book, so I'm trying to work it out with all those students. I recommend just skip the bookstore. What'll happen if we go, let me log in again here. Okay, so if you're in Canvas for the class, so you've got some stuff here on the left. See, you've got one that says My Lab and Mastering. That's the homework. So you're going to go, I should have it set up. I'll have to double check. I've been trying to put out a couple fires this week from things that sort of went sideways, but I think I've got that set up. You're going to go to My Lab and Mastering. So here's the textbook. So it looks like I do have it set up. There's this yellow button. You're going to click the yellow button. Now for me, it gives me the teacher view. So it's a little different than what you're going to see. But you're going to come in here, and it's basically going to have you set up your account. Okay, so if you've used My Math Lab before, you can sign in with your old username and password. Otherwise, you just make a new account. It's like anything where you put in your email, you put in some information, and it sets up an account for you. At some point, it's going to ask you to pay. So you don't have to buy anything from the bookstore. This is the homework license. It's like instead of buying a book from the bookstore, you're going to pay for the online homework license, which comes with an electronic version of the textbook. So if you want to look up what's the formula for derivatives again, you can Google it, but if you want to see exactly what the book says, you open the electronic version of the textbook, you find the section you want, and you can read it. Okay? So you'll go through all that. They do offer a 14-day free trial because in there where it wants you to pay, if you look at underneath that, in fact, let me see if I can show you in my other class. Which class has it? I think my stats class has a picture of it. When you go in and you set up so you go into the My Lab and Mastering like I showed you, you press the yellow button. At some point it's gonna have you sign in or create an account, and then it's gonna go, do you have an access code? Like if you bought it from the bookstore, you'll have an access code. Or ignore these prices. This is for another class. But it's gonna say, or you can just pay right now with a credit card. But I know how it is. Being a student, you might go, I don't have my money till next week. I get paid on Friday, and then I'll have money to pay for this, but I don't have it yet. That's where, if you go down here, see where the red arrow is pointing down below? There's a link. It'll let you use the software free for 14 days. So that gives you time to get your money together to pay for the whole semester fee, which is like... for this class, I don't remember because it's different for every class, and then they change it each semester. But it's, I don't know, $80 to $100 or something. And that includes the electronic version of the textbook, okay? So sometimes students don't see that, but just be aware. When you see a screen that looks like this, it's because, like we're all kind of used to ignoring ads on a website. We're also used to ignoring the fine print at the bottom. Right, so a lot of times we just naturally ignore this, but you don't want to if you want that free trial. So that means you can go in for the next 2 weeks. You can be doing the homework without paying anything, but at the end of that 14 days, it cuts you off, and it's like, okay, we need payment now. right? So then you'll have to be ready to pay at that point. But I always get students in week 2 that are like, oh, I haven't done any homework because I don't have my money yet. Like, you don't have to have your money yet. You can get in for now and work, and it won't cost you anything. Okay, so what do we have? Someone's saying $94 for the code on Amazon and physical book rental also through Amazon for $16. Okay, $75 for 18 weeks. Okay, that's great. $75 for 18 weeks. Great. So the code's always a little tricky. I always like my students to buy the code directly through here, because unfortunately what they've done now is if you, like, it used to be that if you had the title of the book, the author, and the edition, that was all you needed to know. But now they have, for each title and author, there's like 7 versions, right? There's like extended solution version, and like, you know, they have all these different versions. And so sometimes students will accidentally buy the wrong version if they buy it somewhere else, and then it doesn't work on here. If you buy it through here, then you know you've got the right thing. So that's kind of what I would recommend, is buy it through this website. Like, I don't even recommend using the bookstore. Just go through here and pay here. It's actually usually a few dollars cheaper than the bookstore, because the bookstore has to make a little bit of money if you use them. So you can usually save, sometimes it's $5 cheaper, but I've seen it like $30 cheaper if you go directly through the My Lab and Mastering that's over here on the side and pay that way. I've never seen it more expensive than the bookstore. I've never seen that. Okay, so so be aware, you can get it free for now, but you're going to have to pay at some point in the near future. And then it's going to open up, and then you'll see I have assignments there. The assignments will have due dates, right? Sometimes people email me like, when is this assignment due? If you have an assignment online, it'll tell you when it's due. So try to find that due date, and it'll let you know. And then you'll just work through things, right? So you'll go like, see here, section 1.1 on functions. See, I've got some videos here for you, reviewing on functions. You can watch those videos, and then you'll work through homework problems, and then you'll move along in the class. So just pay attention to those due dates. Stay ahead of the due dates. I'm pretty generous with the due dates because I know how it is. You all have busy lives between work and kids and family and other obligations, and occasionally you need to like have a little bit of fun and stuff. I give pretty generous due dates, but if you're always doing things right at those due dates, you're kind of behind a little bit. So try to do things a little bit earlier, is the way it works. Now, I got to double check I have this set up, but I generally set up the homework assignments so that you can complete them after the due date, but there's a 50% penalty. So you really don't want to do them late, but it's there if you need it. So if you did get sick, or you had to take your kid to the emergency room or whatever, you can still get some of those points. And because zeros are really bad, 50s aren't great, but they're way better than a 0. But of course, getting 90s on your homework is really good, right? That's where you want to be. So make sure you watch these videos. We're only meeting 2 hours a week. Normally this class would meet if it was a fully on-ground class, we'd meet 4 hours a week. We're meeting 2. That's half as much, which actually means we're going to get through less than half of the material, because some of the meetings, all we'll do is you'll show up and take a test that week. So we don't have time to cover material that week. That's the reason I have all these videos in here, so that you can learn, I'll try to go over stuff in class, but you can also watch these videos and learn from there. There's also videos built into the homework on certain problems, okay? So just realize, because, sometimes someone will say, oh, well, you didn't cover this in class. Yeah, we're not going to cover everything in class. I'm going to try to cover the stuff that I know students get most confused by. So I'm going to pick the things that are usually the most problematic and talk about those things so that we can clear those up. But you're going to have to learn topics outside of what we're able to cover in class. So watch those videos and come to me with questions. Come to the tutoring center with questions when you have them, so that we can get all that stuff squared away. Okay. Let's see. What was I talking about? So we got that. if there's some kind of an issue with the code, so if you, like I say, I recommend you buy the license directly through the website, but if you purchase the code through the bookstore and something's wrong with it, see me immediately because I can help you get it taken care of. We're in a new edition of the book, and when you go to a new edition, sometimes the codes between the bookstore and the new edition don't always line up. So if it tells you that your code is no good, talk to me, and I can, if you paid for it, I can get the publisher to give you a different code which will then work. So if, like I say, try to just buy directly through the site, but if you got something from the bookstore and it's not right, talk to me about it, and I can help you with that, okay? I'll help you get all that squared away. Let's see, where are we? Okay, so that's homework. Homework's pretty obvious. Just try to get all the, it'll give you green checks if it's right, red X's if it's wrong. Just collect green checks. Sometimes the grading is weird just because of the way it shows results. What it tells you your overall grade in the classes might not seem right depending on how many outstanding homework assignments you have. But the key is just collect those green checks. If you have lots of green checks on all the problems, then you're good. If you have red X's, then you're doing bad, right? So basically just collect those green checks. Exams. So we cover, yep, so there's a question here. I think that's exactly what I was going into. So we cover 6 chapters in this course. Chapters 1 through 6 are what we cover. So that's 1 chapter of algebra review. I think, is it off the top of my head? I don't remember. I think it's 4 chapters of derivatives and then 1 chapter of integrals. So calculus is split largely into 2 sections. One's called the derivative calculus. One's called the integral calculus. We're going to do a lot of work on the derivative calculus, and then you'll have 1 chapter on the integral calculus. Kind of a chapter and a half on integral calculus. So we do chapters 1 through 6. You will have exams after the even-numbered chapters. So you will have an exam after chapter 2. You will have an exam after chapter 4. And your final exam will take place after chapter 6 during finals week. Okay, I have to give that test during finals week. I'm not allowed to let you take the test early unless, again, you have some sort of like medical exemption or, something like that. So, so that's when your exams will take place after chapters 2, 4, and 6. So you can kind of tell, like I don't have the dates for the chapters because I find it's better to be flexible. If I set a date and say, nope, we are taking the test on that date, well, as a class, we might be, what if we're a little behind? It doesn't really help if I force you to take the test a week earlier than we need to because, we all want the scores to be as good as possible, right? So I put that flexibility in there. That means we don't know when exam 1 is going to be today, but I will tell you at least 2 weeks in advance, okay, here's the date you're taking the test, and you can prepare for that. What you should know is the test will be your traditional paper and pencil test in the classroom, assuming that we go back to campus at some point on ground, which we're expected to do. Your tests will be on ground. That's one of the things that was rough in the last couple years is when you have an online test, there's lots of cheating that occurs. I'm sure none of you would cheat, but we do see lots of cheating, and it's really hard to do anything about it. So we will have in-class tests, old style, paper, pencil, something to write with, okay? So be prepared for that. But you can kind of tell roughly when the test is going to be. If we're halfway through chapter 2, then you kind of know, well, there's a test at the end of chapter 2, and we're halfway through chapter 2, so that test is kind of coming, right? And you can prepare for it. Make sure all your homework is as much done as possible. Make sure you're getting prepared for that test. So you can roughly gauge when that's going to be, okay?
Do you allow open notes, or is it just, or no open notes?
Generally, no open notes. And the way it's set up, you can use if you have a basic calculator, you'll be allowed to use a calculator. You can use a graphing calculator. So if you get yourself a TI-84, you can use that during the exam. You're welcome to use a TI-84 calculator during the exam, or a I don't know what you would call it, a not smart calculator, a non-graphing calculator. You can use those, but those TI-84s are great for this kind of a class, because a lot of times what we're going to be doing with calculus is looking at a graph and then doing some calculus. And then once you do the calculus, you look back at the graph. And we're going back and forth between graphs and algebra and calculus a lot. So having a graphing calculator, if you're good with stuff, it'll really help you recognize, oh, I think there's a maximum right here. This problem wants to know about the maximum. It's helpful, because graphing stuff by hand takes a lot of time and is not as exact. So helpful to have those graphing calculators. So no notes, but you are allowed to have a calculator during the test. And then, so what will happen with tests, the first two tests, I can't do this for the final because the class will be over, but for the first two exams, so the exam after Chapter 2 and the exam after Chapter 4, you get a chance to retake those exams. So it will be a similar but different version of the exam. So I reserve the right to change problems around. I might take one problem out and put something else from the chapter then. It'll cover the same basic material, but it's just a different test. So sometimes what happens is someone just wasn't ready for the test. They come in, they get a 50% on the test, and they're like, man, that's not good. Spend another week studying, take the retake, and then they get an 80 or something. So your retake score replaces your original score no matter what. So if you come in and do worse, it still replaces that original score. That almost never happens. If you spend another week studying, you're not going to do worse, right? So I wouldn't worry about that too much as long as you put in the effort, right? The only time people do worse, or usually they do about the same, is if they haven't done any additional studying. But if you haven't done any additional studying, why are you taking the retake, right? You're not going to do any better. But if you spend that time, go, I didn't understand cost functions, now I do. You retake the test, do better, it replaces your original score, right? So and so I don't like average the scores or anything like that. It just replaces it, because the idea is if you take the retake and do better, you've now shown me, yeah, it took me a week longer, but I do understand the material you wanted me to learn. Okay, great. You learned the material, right? So I'm happy to give you that good grade. But it works the other way around. If you come up and you show me that you actually understand it less than you did a week earlier, then that's bad. You're showing you don't understand it. So like I say, as long as students do some more studying, they do at least as good generally. So what we will also have is a review. So you'll get the review is student driven, right? It's really, I know students really like when I say, okay, I'm doing a test review, and I just get up there and I do problems for 90 minutes. But it's, as we can see from research and from my own experience in my classrooms, it's not really helpful, because you've already seen me do a bunch of problems. So just watching me do 90 more minutes of problems doesn't really help. You need to be doing problems, right? That's why, like I stressed, homework. So the reviews are largely student driven. I will give you a practice test and say, here is an example of the type of problems I could give you. I know students want to pin me down a lot. It doesn't mean the test is going to look exactly like the practice test. It doesn't mean I'm going to ask the same exact questions, but it's giving you an idea of where you're strong and where you're weak. Sometimes students think they're really good at a problem, but then when they try to do it on a practice test, they go, oh, I guess I don't understand that as well as I did. Or there might be a topic that's pretty easy and you think it's pretty easy, but we did it 4 weeks ago, and so you haven't looked at it, and then you just make a little mistake because you haven't looked at it for 4 weeks, right? That's the stuff we want to get worked out on the practice test, so that when you take the actual test, you have done that problem in the last 4 weeks, right? You did it theoretically a week ago or something. So there will be a practice test. You all will have, you can form study groups, you can review, you can work together. I'll probably put a discussion board up where you can help each other with problems. Normally, I would have us in the classroom, I'd have you all working together on the practice test and helping each other through it. I suspect we're not going to have time for that because we only meet for 2 hours a week. So that's one of those things that's probably going to get cut for time, but I will put some tools on the website so that if you are stuck, you can say, hey, I'm really stuck on number 4. Can anyone help me? And then someone will reply and go, oh, yeah, I know how to do that one. Here's what you do. And then you have a discussion and you help each other through it. Okay. Then you take the test. Hopefully you pass the test or get a score you can live with. And then you don't have to worry about any retake. But and then you don't have to worry about it and you just move on with the new material. Or you do poorly on the test and you're very disappointed in your grade, and then you take the retake. Okay. The final cannot be retaken. So the last exam of the semester, it just is what it is. You gotta hit that one out of the park on your first swing, unfortunately. Okay, so just be prepared for that. And when it comes to these types of problems on the test, you gotta show your work. You gotta show me what's going on. I gotta be able to understand. You're given partial credit for having different parts of the problem. The answer is worth like 2 points out of 10, sometimes more. It depends on the problem. But if all your work is missing, but you have the right answer, okay, you get 2 points for the right answer, but you haven't shown any of the steps, right? Which sometimes is hard for people. Go, well, why is that if I got the right answer? Mathematics classes are really more about procedure than they are about getting answers. Because if you learn the procedures, that makes you a better calculus problem solver. Whereas if you don't really know how to do a problem, but you occasionally can get a right answer because you sort of intuit the problem, those students usually hit a wall where they reach a point where they can't progress because they don't know how to work through the problems, the procedure, right? So we really want to work on procedure, show your work, all that kind of stuff. It has to be readable to me. I have to be able to look at your work and make sense of it. When you draw graphs, try to do a decent job. If you're drawing a line, use the edge of a book or a ruler or an extra pencil or something. Just take that extra minute to try to make it look good, so that it looks like it's quality. Lines are really important, right? People are like, I learned that in pre-algebra, how to graph a line. Why are you talking about that in calculus? In calculus, we have a thing called a tangent line. It's hugely important to derivative calculus. It's literally, you're going to graph lines. So you have to remember how to do a lot of those algebra skills in order to do the calculus skill, right? So keep that in mind. Behavior shouldn't really be an issue, hopefully. Basically, be good people, be grown-ups, be good humans. When we're in the classroom, a lot of times people know how to act in the classroom. Sometimes people think that doesn't count online. Anything that has to do with this class, including the YouTube stream, including our Zoom meetings, the same school policies apply. So just, we don't want things like cheating. We don't want immature behavior. We don't want people bullying people or, whatever, harassing people or anything like that. Humans need to be, probably all animals, but we've shown this for humans, or it's been shown for humans. People can't learn when they're in an unsafe environment, when they're in an anxiety-inducing environment, when they're scared or whatever, right? This is why, some people get anxiety just being in a classroom, and then they're not able to learn because that anxiety is literally blocking the way your brain works, and it shuts down learning and it goes into like survival mode. When your brain's in survival mode, it's not in learning mode, right? So we need to have an environment. It's part of my job to create an environment where people are relaxed and comfortable. People are not harassing other people or, making other people mad. We're here to learn. And we want to make sure we have a learning environment where people feel comfortable, because my job is to get you to learn, and we can't do that if people feel uncomfortable or they're being harassed or whatever. So all school policies about proper behavior, they apply in the classroom. They also apply on the Canvas page, in the Zoom meeting, on the YouTube stream, all of those places, okay? And I'm sure I don't have to tell any of you that, but sometimes things will pop up where you do have to remind people how to act appropriately, okay? Shoot, the vet keeps calling. I'll call him back in a bit here. Do make sure you're attending class, right? Make sure that you're that's a big deal. Attend class, right? I'll be taking roll. Got to do that. Oh, important dates. So this is another one of those things. Like a lot of times people think being a student is about being smart, and it's not really the case, right? A lot of really smart students wash out. And really, what is a smart student anyways, right? Like it doesn't even really mean anything. But the perception, a lot of times in a classroom, people perceive that person over there is really smart. That person over there is maybe not as smart or whatever. It's just kind of a silly idea, right? But people, I see this, a lot of students think, oh, it's getting through college is about, it's for the smart kids or whatever. Don't get in that kind of frame of mind. A lot of students who would be quote unquote considered smart by the other students wash out because they don't have a good work ethic. And a lot of students who don't always get A's and B's in their classes end up getting degrees. So there's more than just the, whatever smart means. There's a lot of being a student is about the work ethic, right? You can make up for other areas where you struggle by just putting in the effort, working hard. And then all of a sudden you keep working hard on stuff, and then everyone thinks you're the smart person, right? Because stuff's coming easier to you because you put in the work, you did the homework, all that kind of stuff. Also, one of the things about being a student is being strategic, making smart choices as a student. So in other words, not taking 5 science classes in one semester. That's very poor strategy, right? One good strategy is knowing the drop dates. I'm not encouraging any of you to drop. I highly recommend before you drop this course that you come talk to me, because maybe you shouldn't drop the course. You might feel like you should, but maybe you shouldn't. So come talk to me. Maybe you should. If you have a 40% in the class and where the drop date's approaching, maybe you should drop. But just come talk to me first. But you should know when those drop dates are, because sometimes I have students that'll come to me and say, hey, the drop date's next week. I'm considering dropping. And we look at the grade and say, well, you have a pretty realistic chance of passing the class, so probably just try to finish it and see if you can pass it and not have to take the class again. I also have students come to me and say, I think I want to drop the class. What do you think? And I look and say, well, it would be a good idea, except the drop date was last week, and now you can't drop the class, right? So now you're going to get an F or something like that. So just be aware of when these dates are, so you can make a decision. As far as the W, different schools treat W's differently, and it changes over time. If you have 1 or 2 W's on your record, usually not a big deal. If it's littered with W's, it depends, right? When I was getting my undergraduate degree, I had some friends in the nursing program, and at that time in Sacramento, the nursing program was so competitive at that time that you basically had to turn in perfect transcripts. If they saw anything less than an A or a W, your application got thrown in the trash, right? So it just depends on your particular goals. Where are you transferring? What is your degree? That kind of information will decide how much a W will hurt or help you. Usually a W is better than an F. So but it depends, right? The counselors can sort of help you figure that stuff out as far as your program. So just know when those dates are. And again, like I said, it's not necessarily about being, the quote, whatever smart student means. I had a student in my class who was, she took a few of my math classes in a row, and she was always almost perfect in all of those classes. She would finish the course with nearly 100%, right? And then one summer, she came to me and said, I think I'm going to take this schedule over the summer. And I said, you can't do that. That's not reasonable at all. You're taking 3 science classes in a 6-week semester. Each class takes 40 hours a week. That's 120 hours a week. You're going to be working on classes. Don't do that. And then we heard the line that we hear a lot from students, I have no choice because I need to transfer, which is usually a bad sign when students tell me that. It means they're putting themselves in a non-strategic situation. She took those classes in the summer, ended up failing all 3 of them. So her whole transcript was A's. Now she's got 3 F's because she took she made a poor choice about her summer schedule. So that's if you find yourself in the semester where you realize you've taken on too much, right? And maybe, we've had students who take a realistic load, but then all of a sudden they get COVID for part of the semester. Now it's harder, right? It's now harder for you to complete that. So stuff comes up, right? Unfortunately, family members die, people get sick, all sorts of stuff can happen. So if you find yourself in a scenario where you're starting to think you might fail classes, sometimes it's strategic to let one or two of those classes loose so you can still get good grades in your other classes, right? Rather than failing classes. So just be aware of when those dates are, and then try to make good decisions. And like I say, before you drop, please come see me and we'll have a discussion about it, okay? The ADA statement, so if that applies to you, if you have a disability or need accommodations, that all has to go through the EAC. I cannot give you accommodations until the EAC has given me paperwork. It's the law. I can't pick and choose who gets to take the tests under certain circumstances and stuff like that. I have to follow the direction of the EAC. So if that applies to you, contact them, work through them, and don't procrastinate. It doesn't take like a day. It can take weeks to work with them. So you can't do it like the day before the test. Okay, work with them now to get all the paperwork taken care of. They'll get the paperwork to me, and then I do whatever the paperwork says. Okay, but just kind of be aware. Some people coming from high school, it's a different scenario in high school. This is how we do it at the college. Okay. So let's see. That kind of got us to the end there, I think, more or less. Are there any questions? Anything that people want to know about?
Does the homework kind of adapt to your questions being wrong? Like how you said, it gives you a different question. Does it adapt your learning to it?
Yeah, so it's not like some of you may have used a program called Alex, which is an adaptive software. There's kind of an AI built into the software where it will figure out what you know and don't know, and it'll adapt to you. This program does not do that. The homework assignments will be specific problems, but if you're having trouble on number 6, there's an option. I forget what it says, if it says like similar problem or something like that, but you can have it give you a new one until you get it right. So those points aren't lost to you. You can, if you will put in the effort, you can get those points for that problem. But it's not adaptive. I like the adaptive systems, but even Alex has some drawbacks. It's not great yet. So hopefully we'll have a better system in the future, but we don't have it yet. Correct. 3 exams total. Each one is after 2, 4, and 6. And so I'm getting a DM here, so I'm just responding to it. Right. Tests after chapters 2, 4, and 6. The exam after chapter 6 is the final exam, which will take place during finals week at the time appointed by the final schedule. I have to stick to that. That's school policy. The homework load, yeah, so that's a good question. It depends. Depends on your background. I have some students where the homework doesn't take them very long. I have some students where it takes them really long. So it kind of depends on you as a student. Right. So it depends on you as a student as far as how long that takes. And sometimes it takes people a little time to kind of ramp up. So the amount of time you spend on homework at the beginning of the semester may be different than the amount of time at the end of the semester. So for instance, like when we have returning students who maybe have been out of education for 10 years, what I see sometimes is those students might, not everyone, but they might spend a lot of time on homework at the beginning of the semester because they've kind of forgotten how to do homework. They've forgotten what it takes to sort of go through that process. But then after a while, it starts to sink in and they get it, and it's making sense, and their hard work is paying off. And then at the end of the semester, they're spending less time on the homework than some other students because they sort of picked it up. So it's variable. It's very different from student to student. Okay, I have a question here about classrooms. So yeah, here's a good question. My office is Science 237. The classroom that we meet in is Science 353. So there was some confusion over the 2 rooms. Someone's asking me. My office is 237. The classroom we'll meet in is 353. Okay, which is weird because most buildings, they start a number with the floor that it's on. So if you come in from my side of the building, you think you're on the first floor, but you're really on the second floor because the building's on a slant. So I know it's confusing. A lot of times people are looking for a classroom and they're on the wrong floor just because it's a weird building. So my building, 230, or my office, 237, you'd think that's the second floor, but it's actually what looks like the ground floor over by the parking lot. 353 is what you would think of as the second floor, but it's actually the third floor of the building. And it's not very far from my office. So we're all kind of on one end of the building. The other end of the building is usually more for sciences. We have a couple math classes down there, but it's more for sciences usually. And I'll give you a heads up about all that once we return. Are there other questions?
I noticed on the modules there are videos that range from 20 minutes to an hour and a half. Does that mean that we'll be teaching ourselves and then when we meet it's more of a review, or will you be teaching us all of this and this is just extra review?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So there will be some overlap. In order to, like I say, I'm going to try to cover the topics that I know students struggle with the most, right? And I'll try to leave the topics that students pick up easier to a video because the harder ones, I assume people are going to have questions and need a little bit more in-person help with. So I'll try to cover those. There will be a little bit of overlap. Like I can't just talk so narrowly about one topic without it spilling over into the other ones because we need to understand the concepts as well. So it's a little bit of both. Yeah, so there'll be some overlap, but you really want to watch those videos because entire sections of the course I won't have time to cover in class, which also brings up another good idea. I just want you to have the right mind frame from the beginning. A lot of your past math classes have been about, you show up to class, I do some problems on the board, you memorize what I've done, you go home, you do 30 problems, and you've memorized that procedure, and then you sort of regurgitate that on the test and get the problem right? Like when, in an algebra class, you watch me do 20 factoring problems, you go home, you practice 50 factoring problems, you've memorized how to do it, and you come do that on the test. Calculus is a much deeper subject, so in many ways, the concepts that we talk about in here are probably more important than the actual mechanics of calculating things, which I know sounds weird for many of you the way you've had calculus taught before. But the reality is the way the world is going is that calculations themselves are less important because we have software to do a lot of calculations. Many engineers, once they graduate from calculus class, they never actually use calculus by hand to calculate things because at their job there's a piece of software that does the derivatives for them or the integrals for them. But what that engineer needs to know how to do is interpret the derivative to make a decision about the thing they're designing. For you, since this class is more business-based, what's important is the interpretation of the calculus into your business decisions or there's a few biology-based problems in the class. So, your biology decisions for your research or for a business or for whatever it is, that's what's really important, right? So you might be able to find the maximum, of the using the derivative of a point on a graph, but do you realize that that's your maximum profit? And then do you realize how to achieve that maximum profit in the class? That's what's important because, presumably you're in this class because you need it for your future job. Whatever degree you're pursuing has said you need this class. Really, no one's ever going to care about you doing calculations at your work. What they're going to care is, can you make the recommendations to keep our business profitable? So can you tell us how many parts we need to sell next month in order to maximize our profit? That's what's important, right? So along the way, you're going to have to do calculations, but I just want to make sure everyone understands this isn't like an algebra class where you just memorize how to solve an equation and then you're good to go. The interpretations are at least as important because the reality is if you ever are in a situation where someone needs you doing this, you probably will have a piece of software doing the calculations for you. What your boss wants to know is, the answers to the questions about the business. How many parts do we buy for next month? Should we increase our price of this product? Should we decrease our price of this product? How much more should we spend on this ad campaign for it to be an effective way to spend money for us to market this thing? Like those interpretations are, like I say, at least as important. Okay, so just realize there's sort of two things we're doing in this class. There is the calculations. There's also the concepts that are equally as important. Okay, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone heard that, because sometimes I know students try to get through this class by like memorizing how to do a derivative. That's like half of the game here, right? So, okay. All great questions. Very good. Any other questions? No? Okay. So, and there is, if anyone has a question, feel free to stick around. Like I say, they don't want us doing Zoom meetings more than 90 minutes. And I know I've gone over 8 minutes, but I'm trying to make sure everyone has what they need. The way I generally will end a class is I'll shut down the YouTube stream, and then I put it in the playlist for this class, so that if you need to go back later, again, you don't have to look through all 5 of my classes. You just find the playlist for Math V46, and then you find the video. I generally, like those of you who are in the stream right now, you can see the title of the video has the date and time. So look for the date and time for the class that you want to watch, and then you find that video, okay? So that'll be up. And then what I do is I will stick around in Zoom, generally, if people need to talk to me. So I'll excuse class, and those of you who are ready to go, you can just leave. But anyone who wants to stick around and ask me a question, whether it be a question on the homework, a question about an upcoming test, you're concerned about your grade in the class, you feel like the class is starting to get away from you and you need some advice, whatever it is, you can stick around in Zoom and I'll help you, right? It's just like this is how it would work in the classroom. And when we're in the classroom, some of you will come up and talk to me before class. Some of you will stick around and talk to me after class, right? So it's kind of the same thing in the Zoom meeting where I'll stick around and I'll help you. So just always kind of know, because sometimes it's hard to, like in an applied calculus class, it can be difficult to get you help through emails. Right? It's like we write a lot in these emails back and forth, but a lot of times it just doesn't really connect. Whereas a short conversation after class, a lot of students find that way more helpful. So that's what we'll do. I'm going to shut down the YouTube stream right now.